In a universe filled with conquerors, world breakers, and warriors capable of wiping out entire civilizations, one name stands above them all: Thragg. Not just a king, not just a warrior, but the absolute peak of everything a Viltrumite can be. And today, we're going deep into his power, his origins, his feats, and why even legends like Omni-Man were never truly on his level. To understand Thragg, you have to understand one thing first. He wasn't just born strong, he was engineered to be superior. After the brutal purge of the Viltrumite race, a moment that redefined their entire civilization, the Empire needed more than just soldiers. They needed perfection. And that perfection became Thragg. From birth, he wasn't treated like a child. He wasn't raised with compassion or warmth or even identity. He was raised as a weapon. Every second of his existence was focused on one goal: to become the strongest Viltrumite to ever live. While others fought to prove themselves, Thragg was trained to surpass them all. And over time, he didn't just meet expectations, he obliterated them. Now let's talk about raw power, because this is where things start to get insane. Thragg isn't just stronger than other Viltrumites, he's on a completely different level. We're talking about someone who can fight multiple elite Viltrumites at once and dominate them. Not struggle, not barely win, dominate. There are moments in the story where Thragg faces opponents that would normally take entire armies to stop, and he treats them like they're nothing. Even characters like Invincible, who himself becomes one of the strongest beings in the universe, gets completely overwhelmed when facing Thragg at his peak. And Omni-Man, a character who wiped out an entire planet's defenses in minutes, even he knows Thragg is something else. But strength alone doesn't explain how dangerous Thragg is. It's how he uses it. Thragg fights with brutal efficiency. No wasted movement, no hesitation, no mercy. He doesn't just defeat opponents, he destroys them. There are moments where Thragg literally tears enemies apart with his bare hands, rips through bodies like they're paper, crushes skulls with ease, and does it all without emotion. Because to him, this isn't violence, it's purpose. One of the most shocking moments that shows his raw dominance is when he kills Oliver Grayson. Oliver, who is already incredibly powerful for his age, doesn't even stand a chance. Thragg doesn't struggle, he doesn't hesitate, he ends him instantly. And that moment sends a clear message: no one is safe when Thragg decides to act. Now let's talk about durability, because this might actually be his most terrifying trait. Viltrumites are already known for being nearly indestructible. They can survive extreme impacts, space travel, and brutal injuries. But Thragg, he takes that to a completely different level. This is a character who can fight on the surface of the sun. Let that sink in. Not just survive, fight. Engage in a full-scale battle while being burned alive by one of the most extreme environments in existence. Most beings would be vaporized instantly. Even powerful Viltrumites would struggle, but Thragg, he keeps going. Even as his body is literally breaking down, he refuses to stop. And this leads us to one of the greatest fights in the entire Invincible universe: Thragg versus Invincible. A battle that doesn't just push limits, it destroys them. They clash with everything they have: punches that could level cities, movements faster than the eye can track. And it all leads to a final confrontation inside the sun. Both of them are burning, both of them are reaching their absolute limit, but even then, Thragg refuses to fall. It takes everything: strategy, endurance, and pure willpower just to bring him down. Because in a fair fight, Thragg is almost unbeatable. Now let's talk about speed, because a lot of people underestimate just how fast Thragg is. He isn't just strong, he's fast enough to keep up and overpower top-tier Viltrumites. We're talking about combat speeds beyond human comprehension, planetary travel in seconds, reaction times that make ambushes impossible. When Thragg moves, you don't react, you lose. But here's where things get even more dangerous. Thragg doesn't just rely on his base strength. Like all Viltrumites, he evolves. His body adapts to damage. The more punishment he takes, the more dangerous he becomes. So, if you somehow survive his first assault, you've actually made things worse for yourself, because now you're fighting a stronger version of Thragg. And then there's one of his most legendary feats, his battle with Battle Beast. Battle Beast is not just another fighter. He's one of the most savage, relentless warriors in the entire universe, a character who lives for combat, who seeks out the strongest opponents just to test himself. And when he finally meets Thragg, it becomes one of the most brutal fights ever. This isn't a quick battle, it's a war. They fight for an extended period, pushing each other beyond their limits. Blood, destruction, raw power, everything is unleashed. And in the end, Thragg wins. Not easily, but decisively. And as a symbol of that victory, he wears Battle Beast's skin. Not just as a trophy, but as a message. Even the strongest fall before him. Now let's talk about what truly makes Thragg unique, because it's not just his strength, it's his mindset. Thragg doesn't see himself as evil. He doesn't think he's a villain. In his mind, he's doing what's necessary to preserve the Viltrum Empire, to ensure its survival, to maintain order. And that belief makes him even more dangerous. Because he doesn't hesitate, he doesn't question himself, he doesn't doubt. Every action he takes is backed by absolute conviction. And that's why he's such a terrifying antagonist. Because you can't reason with him, you can't scare him, you can't outlast him. The only option is to somehow overcome him. And as we've seen, that's nearly impossible. So how powerful is Thragg? He's not just the strongest Viltrumite, he's the final evolution of what a Viltrumite can become. A warrior trained from birth, a conqueror who ruled for thousands of years, a fighter who defeated the strongest beings in the universe, and a monster who pushed even heroes like Invincible to their absolute breaking point. And maybe the most chilling part of all this, if Thragg had won, there would be no resistance, no rebellion, no second chances, just an empire ruled by the strongest being to ever live. Because when Thragg enters the battlefield, it's not a fight, it's a conclusion.